which is a good sign.
Sam, do you know if Anna's planning to attend? She almost always
Oh,
does.
no, she is off for a few days.
Oh, that's right. She went to New Orleans. Okay. It's all Sam, it's all you this time.
Oh my. Oh my. Well, the news is good. So
That's right.
All right, so we are live streaming right now, and I'm going to hit the record button.
All right, everyone, good morning. I would like to welcome you all to the Wednesday, March 19th, 2025 Executive Committee. I am President Erin, and I am calling the meeting to order at 11:35 a.m. And with that, we're going to do roll call. So if everyone could come off mute for a minute while I do this. Here we go. Imai,
Present.
Colette, Kurt,
Here.
Keith,
Present.
Karen,
Here.
Jen,
Present.
Tom Daniel,
Here.
John DePriest,
Here.
John F., Tom G.,
Here.
Mo, Sagoon, Tabor,
Here.
Robert, Angie, Gina, Steve O.,
Yeah.
Vandana, Claire,
Here.
Sam,
Here.
Steve S.,
Present.
Juan, Elaine,
Here.
and Erin here. Thank you so much, everyone. Next up on the agenda is the approval of minutes from February 26, 2025. I'd like to entertain a motion at this time to place it on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I hope I got that right. So I have motion made by John DePriest, second made by Steve Silvera. Is that good, everyone?
That's
Yes?
good.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how this works, Aaron, but if you had to take a vote to put it on the consent agenda, that's no different than taking a vote to approve the
Right.
minutes.
I just want to make sure I have the motion and second correct. Great.
Erin,
so
do you
much.
mind if I interrupt? I apologize. There are three small corrections, minor corrections that need to be made, that were brought to my attention just a few moments ago, via email, and I don't know how we should take a vote, but these are like minor corrections.
Okay, can you just tell us what those three corrections are? And if the motion and seconder are okay with that, then they can maintain their motions as amended.
All right.
Please.
Oh, let me take a look. Okay, I'm not sure what they are. And I apologize for the interruption. I just didn't want something that was brought to my attention and me not saying anything about it.
I can brief you on that if you want. They were my corrections.
Great.
Comes clean. It's him.
Yeah. So two of the spots in the or two of the lists, me as Mr. Tabor and not as Mr. Keeley. So sort of a minor item, but it seemed like it didn't comport with the other parts where I am labeled as Mr. Keeley.
Oh, many apologies. I will correct that right away.
And then there was one in there of I thought I sent it through with a track changes on it. It said they, and it should have been that. But it wasn't a huge. It was more grammatical than factual.
We will find it.
Thank you, Tabor. So John DePriest, since you were the motioner, are you fine with sustaining your motion with those changes?
Yes.
And Steve Silvera, are you also okay?
I'm not gonna withdraw my second on the basis of that new information. I'm fine.
Okay, great. Thank you. So that as amended will go on the consent agenda. Perfect. Thank you so much, both of you. And thank you, Tabor, for reading and sending in your edits. All right, next up is the treasurer's report. Treasurer Sam.
Thank you, President Aaron. Hello to everybody. Sam Seidel, Treasurer. What we're looking at today should be a fairly brief report. January 2025 income statement. A couple of points to make. The numbers that you see in the budgeted portion of this income statement reflect the mid-year budget changes we just approved at the council. So those numbers have been adjusted. And as I was joking a minute or two ago, the news is good. As you know, I'm always talking about the overhead rate, and we've been keeping a close eye on that over the course of the year, and we're aiming for June 30th. And if you look at this month, namely the January month overhead rate, it's down to 102.2, which is well below the 124 that we've been approved of. And it really helps us bring down our year-to-date overhead rate to 131.6. And that's all good news. The reason for this is that MAPC, looking at the overhead rate, has adopted a whole bunch of policies and procedures to make sure people are billing to projects and not putting it onto administrative expenses. And you'll see that our direct labor for the month is at 110, and our admin expenses are at 88% of what we budgeted. So that's all good news. It brings us down to 131.6, which, as we discussed in the mid-year process, is heading towards the 127%, which is where we think we'll end up at the end of the year. And that's fine. And that's been approved by all the executive committee and the council. That concludes the treasurer's report. Any questions, comments, or thoughts? Anna's not here today, so I'll have to push the tough ones on to Mark, but that concludes my report.
Thank you, Treasurer Sam. Mark, do you have anything? You came off mute. Okay, good. All right, so with that, I will, if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to put the approval of the treasurer's report on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, I have a motion made by Kurt. Who was my second on that?
Tabor.
Okay, Tabor. Great, perfect. Thank you so much, both of you. All right, next up is the executive report. Lizzie, take it away.
Excellent. Thanks, everybody. Everyone seems to be in good spirits today. And I just needed to say that calling you Mr. Tabor makes you sound like an elementary school teacher, which I would appreciate. But I was going to give just a brief overview of what we've included in the executive report this month, just to highlight a few of the cool and interesting projects that we're working on at MAPC. So I wanted to highlight first the Malden Open Space and Recreation Plan plus Art, which is a really cool project that we're working on. I think we've given a handful of updates about it up until now, but they have completed their outreach and engagement efforts, and they just had a phenomenal response. So I felt like it was worth mentioning. They've talked to over about 1,000 people in Malden, just through the various outreach streams that the team has done. So we're really excited about this plan and excited to see it continue moving along. I wanted to highlight the Reading Net Zero Action Plan, which concluded in March. This was a really great project because Reading was really eager to kind of create this Net Zero Action Plan, and has been really unwavering in their support of advancing this kind of policy work for the town. And we came up with a number of really good recommendations for the plan. And if you get a chance to look at it, which I'm glad to share with folks, the foreword was written by young students from the high school's Climate Change Club, which was really wonderful to read and a cool addition to the project. Inside Data Services, we might have highlighted this last month. Nobody could remember, but we did the statewide housing plan, A Home for Everyone, and we we're working with HLC along with UMass Donahue and Dame Consulting to lead the data analysis and writing. We created a whole bunch of housing needs scenarios, and it elevates a targeted housing production goal of 220,000 units, which is an update to the previous one. Definitely worth taking a look if you get a chance. We have a link in the report. I wanted to highlight sort of two pieces inside government affairs. Leah might talk a little bit about the first, which is that we had a really big push to do to get the legislature to come to a permanent solution on the remote and hybrid meetings legislation. Our coverage and doing just a tremendous amount of municipal outreach. We got media coverage all over the state. There was actually an article in a paper in like Western Mass, which we're really surprised to see. But we really got a very big push of municipal officials calling for the legislature to come to this permanent fix. They did not come to a permanent fix, but it looks like there's legislation that'll create essentially an extension of the current program until June of 2027. Leah can talk a little bit more about that, but I wanted to highlight the team's really incredible outreach work in this space. It was really great. And then we've also, because the budget process is underway, which again, Leah will talk a little bit more about in a minute, we've started to do, we had 2 lobby days, one on DLTA and one on our Shannon grant program, which you've heard a lot about over the years. The Shannon lobby day was a truly phenomenal experience. We've never had that many people inside the Senate reading room. They filled it to max capacity. Just a ton of youth advocates pushing for more funding for the Shannon program. It was a really, really incredible day. We were joined by legislators from many, many offices. And the reason I wanted to highlight it here is because I know Leah wouldn't necessarily sing the praises of herself and the team that really worked hard together with their municipal collaboration team to put together probably one of our best Shannon days yet. Inside our land use team, if you have not had a chance to, I totally suggest watching the webinar that we just did, I think last week, on the ADU model zoning. So I think folks probably remember that, oh, thanks, Buzz, that ADUs by right were included as part of the Affordable Homes Act. We have been working with HLC, Housing and Livable Communities, and the Mass Housing Partnership to develop these model zoning framework. It was released on March 11th, and then we did this webinar. It's really great, and you should take a look. I wanted to highlight some of the work that our public health team is doing. They have been doing a lot of food security support in Chelsea, Revere, and Winthrop. Recently, over the course of the past several months, the team convened about 6 meetings for folks who are doing food systems work on the ground in those communities. It's work that we are going to need to build on, we know, because food insecurity is just becoming a much bigger issue in those communities right now with the changes in at the federal level. And so I wanted to highlight it because it's been a really strong and collaborative relationship with those communities and kind of building on the strengths of the folks on the ground who are doing that work. And we know we're going to need to be working on that going forward. Inside strategic initiatives, everybody knows that we adopted our strategic plan at the council meeting. That was great. Thank you so much to all of you for your support. I felt like it was a really wonderful conversation at council, and everybody at MAPC, not surprisingly, is very excited to get started on all the elements of the strategic plan. So just wanted to take a chance to thank all of you. And then the other exciting news inside strategic initiatives is that we received news last week from the Barr Foundation that we received 2-year funding. It's a $2.2 million renewal for our climate and mobility work at MAPC. This, I think folks know that these dollars go really far at the agency, support a lot of our work, and we were really grateful for Barr's continued support of this work and this investment in our work, especially right now. And then I think the last thing I wanted to highlight was inside our transportation team. We just did this really great project with the city of Boston. It was funded through a Mass CEC grant to pilot a program that would encourage local deliveries by e-cargo bike instead of by a truck or a van. So it's a little bit about how we're thinking about the curb. It's a little bit about how we're thinking about GHG emissions in the city and sort of like new delivery methods. And we focused on the Alston-Brighton neighborhood, which for a lot of reasons, we wanted to make sure we were piloting there. It was a really great pilot program, and we're hoping to try to move it forward throughout the city of Boston. They were really excited with the work. And I think that's everything that I wanted to highlight. Mark, I don't know if you had any other things you wanted to call out for folks.
No, it's your month. That's fine. You've got a lot of good things. Lots going on here.
Yeah, it's super busy. Glad to take any questions too.
Buzz?
So I have a question. First of all, the bar grant is great, both in terms of size and because of it showing bar's continuing commitment to the organization, which is really great. Question is, it looks like it's a pretty amorphous set of tasks. Is this sort of do good work in this world and you can have all this money, or do you have a set of serious tasks? And on part, is it really the urban Boston, or is it really region wide?
It's absolutely region wide. And in fact, some aspects of the grant even contemplate working with some of our sister regional planning agencies across the Commonwealth. But no, it will not surprise you that there is a grant proposal that kind of went into the Bar Foundation to ask for support for very specific deliverables. It's a very, very long proposal with a lot of specific deliverables around mobility and climate. I will say, though, that, the Bar Foundation has also been generally supportive of encouraging us to use the funding that they give us in ways to support the work related to our climate and mobility work. So, for example, I think they are starting to be a little bit more interested in that nexus between housing and decarbonization. And so, when we put in our proposal this year that we would want to use some of the funding to support that work, they were actually excited about it. Same with community engagement, which they have never directly funded, but our proposal this year does call out some innovative community engagement efforts, particularly in the transportation space, which they were excited about. So if you want to read the very long proposal, Buzz, I'm glad to share it, but I promise there's a lot of specific deliverables that go behind this.
Thank you. Claire?
Great, thanks. I'm wondering if you could speak a little more to what the pushback is around finding a permanent solution for this remote meeting participation. Maybe Leah has some comments on it. I'm always surprised when it is renewed for a certain amount of time, but we're not. It doesn't seem like there's any hurry to get us to the point where we have a permanent resolution here.
Yes, I'm glad to talk about this. I think, we actually just had our leadership meetings yesterday with the Speaker's office and Chair of Ways and Means, and actually also pressed on this issue to both of them. I think candidly, they have told us that they feel like they didn't have enough time to vet the permanent solution. I think folks around this table are aware that we have heard from Common Cause and ACLU that they had concerns about some of the moving towards a permanent solution. And I think they heard some of those concerns as well. I think, the thing that's complicated about it for us is what we're asking for is flexibility. We're not asking for them to choose one path forward. We're asking for them to make permanent the flexibility for cities and towns to make this decision. And I think there's lots of ways to create some additional parameters and support for municipalities around that. But it honestly feels to me like they didn't do all the work they would need to actually wrap those pieces up by next week. And so they extended it, and they have assured us, as they have in the past, that this runway will give us an opportunity to actually seek the permanent solution. We once again offered to continue to be a convener among the groups because we've played that role in the past. They said, yes, you should definitely convene. So we'll see.
There's no good answer, Claire. I mean, Lizzie did a great job.
It's judicious.
It's just that it's a mystery. They, the last extension was a long extension. They said exactly the same thing then. And, while I have great admiration for Common Cause and ACLU, even though I don't happen to agree with them on this issue, the odd thing is the legislature doesn't actually pay them all that much mind most of the time. I wish on other more important issues, they actually did pay more attention to Common Cause and the ACLU. But we have a few members who are holding it up, who, definitely feel that all municipal meetings should be remote or which should have the ability for remote participation. And so far they've been able to hold it up.
Great, thank you. Well, hopefully they don't wait to convene until 2027. So
Yeah, we're gonna try to push that.
yeah. All right, Tom.
Thanks for all the impactful work. Seems like it's another busy month. I just had a quick question about model zoning for accessory dwelling units.
Yeah.
My zoning team attended the webinar. They have additional technical questions. Who should I direct them to? Somebody at HLC or MAPC?
We're glad to take additional technical questions. You can send them to either Andrea Harslong, our Director of Land Use, or Emma on her team, who also helped to lead that webinar. There were a couple other folks from MEPC who were involved. You're also welcome just to email me and I can make the connection for you.
Super. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm not seeing any other questions. So thank you, Lizzie, for giving us the executive report this month. A lot of great stuff and really appreciate it. So next up on the agenda is the report of the Legislative Committee. So I'm going to call on Legislative Committee Chair Keith. Where are you, Keith? Oh, there you are. Oh, and past president, but also Legislative Committee Chair.
Thanks very much, current President Aaron. The Legislative Committee did not meet this month. However, we were in full swing of the sub-region legislative breakfast. I got to attend the one in North Reading last week for the North Shore and North Suburban subregions. On my radar screen next is the Magic subregion on April 4th, and I'm sure there are others as well. So those are great opportunities to have conversations with the communities and with the legislators representing those cities and towns. I really like the format that I saw at the in North Reading, where it was as usual a panel of legislators talking about common issues instead of hearing a quick speech from each one and simply pushing our agenda, but rather it was a good conversation and I appreciated the format very much. So now that we will be able to continue to meet virtually after the Senate acts tomorrow, we hope. Look forward to further meetings of the Legislative Committee this spring and maybe even some in person. And I'll turn it over to Leah Robbins, our Government Affairs Director, for her report from the team. And thanks, team, for all the work you do for us.
Thanks so much, Keith. I will make sure to get the dates for the future Legislative Committee, the Legislative Breakfast out to this group. We would love to have you join us. Our next breakfast is actually on Friday of this week with the Inner Core Committee at the Bostonia Restaurant in Boston. So it's a really accessible location. We're excited to have a great panel of legislators from the region. We're going to be talking a lot about transportation priorities with this group because we know it's an issue for these communities in the Inner Core region. So they all look a little bit different to highlight the issues that are most coming up around the area. And as Keith said, we love the back and forth. We never know quite what questions are going to come from the audience. And that's what makes it a really engaging back and forth. On the open meeting law, we will be sure to keep you all posted as soon as that final bill hopefully moves through the Senate tomorrow. Both branches have said they are committed to moving it along. And then, as Lizzie pointed out, continuing to engage with all of you to have that larger conversation with legislators about the flexibility that we've been hearing from member communities that's so important. So we'll be relying on you to help us have those conversations. We are also, I think it's been since our last meeting that legislative committees have been appointed and bills have been assigned to committees. So we have been working to understand where all of our bills have gone, and just so that you know, of the many bills that MAPC has endorsed over the years, we're about 80 bills this session that the team is working on supporting. 9 of them have the top 2 committees or bills have gone is transportation with 9 bills and the revenue committee with 9 bills. So those are places we expect to be working quite a lot. And a few of our bills still haven't been sent to committee, but most will have that done by the end of the week. We're really excited. We worked with the communications team just to put a little plug in to update our website. So you can see the 20 bills that we are most pushing folks to endorse and asking for support on. It's on our website, all organized by Metro Common theme. So that is something that we're going to keep plugging. And then as Lizzie mentioned, the budget is very much underway with many, many long hearings across the state as the different secretaries give their case for why they need the funding that the governor put in forward in House 1. We're making the case for DLTA and for Shannon very strongly, and we'll keep doing that in conversation with legislators, working again with Rep. Donato and Senator Eldridge to support on DLTA. And would love your support in having conversations with legislators, and we'll make sure to circulate the fact sheet so you've got some of the information there. And that's kind of what I've got. The budget, we expect the House to be taking it up next month. So just about this time next month, usually on a Monday or a Wednesday before school vacation week, we'll get the House Ways and Means budget draft with amendments due very quickly, and then they'll debate it the week after school vacation week in April, and then on to the Senate. So very much in the early stages of session, and really, still full of optimism and vigor for where all of our priorities will land, and really excited to have the conversations with the new chairs of these many committees. And honestly, legislators that serve the communities of this region are in some incredible positions to really advance Metro Common forward. We're really well poised with leadership too. I think almost all of the House leadership is within the MAPC region. Kind of remarkable.
Leah, could you announce a few of the chairs of some key committees like
Sure.
Municipal, Housing, Transportation?
Yeah, the Transportation Committee is chaired by Senator Crichton and Representative Arcero, who we worked really closely with last session because he chaired the Housing Committee. So now he's sort of moving along to new places. The Revenue Committee is Senator Eldridge and Representative Modero. Folks that we work really closely with. One of the other committees that a lot of our bills got sent to.
Housing and municipalities, or whatever that's called.
Yeah. Municipalities is Senator Roush and Representative Lewis. It's like I can picture his face, which is really exciting to get to work with him from Framingham. And I don't have housing off the top of my head right now, just flew from my brain, but I'll put it in the chat.
Julian Sear.
Thank you. Yes, it's Senator Sear.
And I think Haggerty.
Yes.
It is Haggerty, yes.
It is Haggerty, yes.
Yeah.
Team
Red
effort. Thank you.
All very exciting stuff. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Government Affairs team. I'm not seeing any questions right now, so we'll move on to the next item, which is
Aaron, if I could mention just one thing, sorry. Thank you. I do want people to know that in our meetings with Speaker's Office and Chair Mike Lewitz from House Ways and Means yesterday, those were Metro Mayors Coalition meetings, but we put much more emphasis on the local aid accounts than we usually do. Chapter 70, Chapter 90, sort of a local aid account, UGA, all the others. And this is really a response to just the fact that we are in uncertain financial times, and a lot of municipalities are in fiscal stress, and the state budget is not looking like it's likely to be exceptionally generous at this point in time. So while all of our other line item priorities are important, and we certainly mentioned several of them, we felt it was really necessary to push harder on the core local aid accounts. We didn't leave with a check, but I think they certainly hurt us. And I think that this year, because of all the uncertainty on the federal level, the budget is going to be one thing, but supplemental budgets are probably going to be more important, either because things get worse or, and this is possible, I've seen it before, things get better. And, you know, the initial caution of the current budget season, it might turn out that, you know, tax revenues are okay next year. So I expect that there will be many subs, and those are really important. We follow them closely, even though they don't get in the news as much. And my guess is more will be decided in the supplementals this year than is normally the case, because they're making these budget decisions basically in the spring, and it's pretty clear now a lot of the federal stuff, as well as where the economy is going, it's not really going to be clearly understood in the next couple of months. It's going to take some more time. I don't want to drain all of Leia's optimism and vigor, as she put it, but maybe just a little bit.
We gave her a pop quiz and kind of took some air out of her balloon, but we'll keep our fingers crossed. Okay, great. So next up on the agenda is the nominating committee approval. And typically it's Lizzie. Is that correct, Lizzie? Okay. So I'm going to call in Lizzie for this item.
Excellent. So just to ground us, we need to approve the nominating committee that will be advancing the slate of nominations for officers in advance of our council meeting in May. And I have reached out to 5 folks. I've heard back from 4 who have agreed to serve. One of them is currently on the call today that I've not heard from, so I'm hoping not to put her too deeply on the spot. But the nominating committee that we are hoping will serve is Steve Magoon, Michelle Tyler, Rachel Benson, Steve Silvera, and all of them have already said yes, they're willing to. I have not yet heard from Vandana, but I'm hoping that she will be willing to serve on the nominating committee as well this year. But that is the recommended list of folks to serve on the committee.
Vandana, if you're within earshot, can you let us know?
Don't
Sorry,
know.
Sorry for the delay. I'm actually driving on the road. But yes, I must have missed your email, Lizzie. I have to look through. I don't remember seeing something on this, but yes, you got a yes from me. I'm happy to serve on the committee.
Look at that.
Thanks.
It's the fastest public policy moves in state government.
Yeah.
It's right there.
Great. Who says peer pressure doesn't work? Lizzie, just really quick, can you explain just kind of the thinking behind how the makeup of the nominating committee exists?
Yes, so actually our bylaws actually govern this. So we actually need 1 person from each caucus, so from city, town, gubernatorial, and ex officio, and then we need 1 more. And so we have that representation based on this makeup. I don't expect it will be a particularly heavy lift this year.
Oh, great. So with that, I will ask for a motion to put the nominating committee approval on the consent agenda.
So move.
Motion made by Mo. And I'll have second made by Tom Daniel. Karen, I saw your hand, but I know, maybe next time. All right, great. So that item is now on the consent agenda. All right, next up, report of federal funding. Not too much doom.
Yes, this is going to be, I'm going to start off. Lizzie will perhaps have things to add. Margie was not able to be with us today. So I continue to feel that we have been lucky, and that's good for the moment, but the longer your luck lasts, the more worried you are about it running out. You know, we have had limited substantive interactions with the federal government in the last 2 months. We did get new guidelines for AmeriCorps and new guidelines for developing the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. That's from the EDA. Neither of those guidelines affect the work of our AmeriCorps member or our ongoing efforts to complete the SEDS. It happens, we are doing the 5-year SEDS at the moment. It's due in July. And we are pretty much proceeding as anticipated. Whether or not we're going to send the SEDS in, and even if it comports with the guidelines, it still gets rejected for some reason. That's always a possibility, I suppose, but we haven't run into anything too serious there. Our CPRG, or Climate Pollution Reduction Grant, as I think some of you know, the portal for payments has been open, closed, and then open again. And now it has stayed open for several weeks. And we have been submitting invoices. Generally speaking, as we submit invoices through the various federal portals, program by program, we have noticed not only that we are getting paid, but that in some cases we're getting paid more efficiently than usual. We think that some of the federal staff are eager to get the money out before they might be shut down. We received a copy of a very, very scary document from HUD, from the city manager of Cambridge a few days ago. It related not to a program that's run at MAPC, but a program that I think a number of your municipalities use and states use to address homelessness. It's called the Continuum of Care Program, or COC for short. The secretary of HUD inveighed against the program for its past alleged misdeeds and demanded that everyone seeking to participate in the program from now on sign what I would characterize as an extraordinarily offensive series of commitments. Now, not wishing to make light of a serious situation, I actually discerned that I could sign that document truthfully about our one HUD program, if it happened to come to us, which is the pro-housing program. Because no, we don't use the pro-housing program, which is about modular housing construction, to encourage people to have elective abortions. And I'm quoting from the document. But the document as a whole was so offensive that I'll be honest, if it ever came to my desk, I would find it very difficult to sign. Some of our colleagues in other parts of the country have faced these requirements much more, perhaps from more aggressive regional offices of various departments. And one of them in Atlanta, I think, chose an interesting approach, which was they signed the required document, but they also formally filed with their attorneys a protest against doing so, indicating that in their opinion, requiring the signing of the document went counter to existing court orders. And I thought that was an interesting approach. It is certainly one I suppose we could consider if it ever came to that here. It hasn't yet. In fact, HUD was ordered by the Department of Justice, even the Department of Justice, to withdraw that requirement because they deemed it to be, in fact, against a court order that was suspending such actions by the Trump administration. So HUD is no longer, has not actually formally withdrawn it, but they are no longer requiring that anyone sign it. Which kind of amounts to the same thing. You know, we remain worried that, I think we're especially worried that projects we have been granted through grant awards by the prior administration, but which are not yet subject to a signed contract and work plan, are not likely to come through. I think those are probably most at risk. Less at risk, but still at risk, are existing contracts. I don't think they're going to be able to willy-nilly cancel those contracts. They might, but I don't think they will be. I certainly think they're going to have to pay us for work already completed consistent with those contracts and approved work plans. But they could try and require us to sign a bunch of things that are noxious and say, if you don't sign, we'll cancel the contract. Again, they have not done that yet, but I honestly feel that's the thing I'm most worried about, is being asked to sign things for future contracts or existing contracts that go against the mission or values of the agency, and in some cases, go against the actual purpose of the grant. A lot of the time that Lizzie and I are spending on the question of federal grants does not actually relate to specific contracts or the budget. It relates to talking with and addressing the concern and sometimes the panic of some of our staff members about what's going on in Washington, how it might affect their funding and their jobs, how it affects them personally and emotionally because of the things they've come to MAPC to do, which are now devalued by the administration. And also, in some cases, whether they are very concerned that people who are documented residents of the United States, or certainly people who are undocumented residents of the United States, might be subject to arrest at one of our community engagement meetings. I think this is extremely unlikely, but Lizzie and I are finalizing now and will circulate shortly suggestions about what people need to do in the unlikely event that ICE or other federal officials show up with or without a warrant at one of our meetings. And I know our community engagement staff is taking this into account in how they do community engagement, because they know that if certain folks are now less willing to go to the doctor and less willing to go to church and less willing to send their kids to school, they are probably not going to prioritize above those things an MAPC meeting. I know all of you would, but most people won't. The delicate thing that we're dealing with is we want to circulate those protocols. We want to help people to understand what they should and should not do under those circumstances. But at the same time, we think it's extraordinarily unlikely that it will happen, and we don't want people to panic. So that's a difficult, I'll just being honest with you, for Lizzie and me and Angela and others who are on this call, it's a difficult balance. Margie, Javier and his team at community engagement, it's a difficult balance that we're doing our best to engage with. The last thing I'll say is we are trying to take this into account with Anna and with Sam eventually in the development of the FY26 budget. It's the same thing. It's trying to be realistic, but not so doom and gloom that we cut out funding that really is most likely to remain. I also think that our budget might be one that needs to be revisited a couple of times during the year, because we are so uncertain about things at the moment, and eventually things will become more clear. I'm going to stop there and see if Lizzie has anything she wants to add.
No, I think just echoing honestly this balance that we're trying to strike with our staff in terms of being honest with them so that they don't feel like we are holding back and hiding information that makes them feel more anxious, of course. And, but also being like a little bit realistic on sort of where we think things are headed. Anna has already started to put together our budget for next fiscal year. And so I think everyone is aware that it's just a time of enormous uncertainty. I'll also that was, kind of certainly the other theme of the meetings that we had inside the State House yesterday was this time of enormous uncertainty. And I think Mark and I are talking to our staff a lot about the fact that like living in moments of enormous uncertainty is extremely stressful, and it is hard on your mind, it is hard on your body, and sometimes it makes it hard to like bring your whole self to work. But doing the good work is actually how we advance all the things we care about together. So we are trying, I think as most leaders of organizations, I think all of you are probably struggling with that too, and how you talk to your colleagues about these issues. We're just kind of in that same boat.
We had an excellent meeting that Leah and her team put together with the Attorney General and her staff last week, talking about the issues that we're facing and some of our mayors who are on the call are facing, and town managers were also on the call, and also some of the court action that she is involved in. We're keeping her informed of things that happen here. So we're informing her of that HUD memo. And also I neglected to mention there is a food procurement for schools program that our public health team and our municipal collaboration team use to buy local and healthy food for our kids in school systems. And it looks like that program is being terminated. And we need to look into that a little bit more. Lizzie is looking into it more. I don't know whether it's like a USDA thing or it's Department of Health maybe overreacting to what's going on at the USDA. I'm not quite sure yet, but we're looking.
Yeah, it's a USDA program, but the governor's really already indicating she'll try to backstop some of that. The only other thing I just wanted folks to know is we are also communicating more often with our directors. So Mark and I set up every other week stand-up meetings with our directors just to talk about these issues, learn a little bit more about what they're hearing on the ground, just so that we can actually have some more of this communication with our staff about what's going on. And the meetings so far have been actually good, not hopeful, kind of this tone, but it's been a good series of conversations.
We'll answer any questions if you have. Very open to advice also.
Well, I'll start by saying thank you again. I know we talked about it in officers, but thank you, Mark, and thank you, Lizzie, for being so diligent and steadfast in your leadership for the agency, for the region. I acknowledge and I understand how stressful this is, not just for your staff, but also yourselves. And it's really challenging to think about everyone else while you're trying to survive day to day. So I want to thank you for that, and I'm sure staff appreciates it as well. I don't know I hope they do. I appreciate it. I don't know if there are any questions or comments on this. Yes, Imai.
So, do we have, or would it be appropriate to have the kind of know your right sheet that, like I'm thinking like in the spirit of AOC type of thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad to jump in on this. We have actually, we're kind of talking about this, I think, on two sort of levels. So it's sort of the know your rights for our staff, information for our staff to have, and the guidance document that Mark was talking about what happens if ICE shows up includes that information. And we've been working really closely with partners that are really in this space and leading on those materials. So we're not creating them anew. And so we have some of that. And then I think, Imai, as you know, because I think you participated in one of the webinars that we had about this just for the region. And I expect that this will kind of be an ongoing conversation that we're having with our members and folks who are impacted at the local level. Also just to share out those trainings and information to folks at the local level. So there's like an internal component of that and an external component of that.
Great, thank you. Tom D.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer sort of about talking with staff and with teams and the uncertainty of it all. Yeah, one thing that's come up in some of our conversations is, 5 years ago we were all at home. Many of us for the first time working remotely, knowing not what the hell was going on there. How we were going to keep our work going, how we were going to do the good work we're doing, how we were going to support our neighbors, our coworkers, our businesses. None of us knew what we were doing, and we figured it out. And we figured it out by working together, digging deep, staying focused on what the real goals were. I know this context is very different in many respects, but still that sort of being true, collaborating, leaning on the relationships that we have to keep going forward. I think those lessons are still very relevant. And given that, you know, most of my team here went through it with me 5 years ago, that's something that we're able to draw back upon. So I just wanted to offer that.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, it's like it's a good perspective, and it also kind of makes you gulp a little bit because it was so hard then when we made that transition. But you're right, we got through it. I do think a lot of our staff at the agency are new, and so reminding them of that is actually an important thing because they weren't here to necessarily experience some of that with us. But like we did actually come out of that effort really stronger as an agency. So it's a good reminder.
Sam.
Here's my little slightly tongue-in-cheek, but not entirely tongue-in-cheek comment on this stuff. I've just finished reading a book about the earliest Puritans who arrived on the Massachusetts shores and created the Massachusetts Bay Colony. And they simply, and this is 1620s, 1630s, they simply refused to play along with the King of England. And I hope nothing has changed in the last 400 years. I hope Massachusetts stands strong. That's my comment.
Thank you, Sam.
All right. Thank you, Sam.
Maybe we'll rename our big conference from the Arbella. I don't know.
Exactly.
Great. Well, I'm not seeing any other hands raised. So with that, we're going to move along on the agenda. Is there other business not known at the time of the posting of this agenda? Okay, great. As a little point of personal privilege, I just want to kind of remind people who are on this call or watching us in syndication on youtube.com that because we're coming, you know, we were talking about nominating committee and, you know, kind of thinking about the next year and thinking about what people want to do and how they want to stay involved. And I put in the chat kind of the council appointments like the delegates and alternates, and it's a good time, as always, to kind of check and make sure that for cities and towns, their information is up to date, and obviously for state agencies, your information is up to date, because like it doesn't do us any good if we have a delegate who does not work even in the state anymore be your delegate. As a reminder, delegates can serve on executive committee, and if that is a hope for, you know, someone in your departments, in your cities and towns in particular, you know, just kind of think about that and have that kind of conversation. And obviously reach out to Mark and Lizzie if you have questions on that, but it would be a great goal to have a delegate and an alternate for every city and town, if you are able to. So I just wanted to kind of shout that out because our annual meeting will be in May, and we'll have an executive committee meeting between now and then, two actually between now and then. But you know, let's not wait till the last minute because I want people to participate. I want people involved, and we do a lot of cool stuff here. So check the link, see if you recognize any of those names, and make updates as necessary. Great. All right.
And Emma Kuntz is on vacation, but they will return, I think, next week. And they've been doing a great job at trying to fill out the membership, particularly from our cities and towns, as we begin that rush to try and fill up as many seats as we can before the meeting in May, the annual meeting.
And that list, although I know, Keith, you marked that the page had last updated on December 2nd, it has been updated since, because we, like, Stoneham added an alternate in the last 2 weeks, and their name is on there.
Yeah, we forgot to update the update, but it is in fact up to date.
As most updates are. All right, great. So please do that. And I will say the alternate for Stoneham has participated in 2 events already and has loved it. So you never know. All right, great. So with that, I am going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda and to adjourn the meeting.
I make that motion. Second.
Thank you, John DePriest. I really messed up on who that second was.
Mo.
Oh, Mo. Yes, thank you. So motion made by John DePriest to approve the consent agenda and adjourn the meeting. Second made by Mo. I think everyone can come off mute for me so we can take the roll. I appreciate it. Here we go. Imai.
Aye.
Colette.
Aye.
Kurt.
Aye.
Keith.
Aye.
Karen.
Aye.
Jen.
Aye.
Tom D.
Aye.
John D.
Aye.
John F.
Aye.
Tom G.
Aye.
Mo.
Aye.
Sagoon Tabor.
Aye.
Robert. Angie. Gina. Steve O.
Aye.
Vandana.
Aye.
Claire.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
Steve S.
Aye.
Juan. Elaine.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And Erin. Aye. And with that, our meeting is
Aaron,
adjourned.
if I could, I'm sorry. I just want to remind people that the April meeting will be in person.
Yeah.
The May meeting will be remote because shortly after the May meeting, we will have the annual meeting in person.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark, for that. So I hopefully will see you all at the April in-person executive committee meeting on April 16th. So please make sure that's in your calendar. Let's have some food and conversation at that meeting. So with that, I will call the meeting adjourned at 12:30